I got a $400,000 job. Then my dad demanded 50% for him and 30% for my sister. There are moments in life that shatter everything you thought you knew about family. For me, it was the day I landed my dream job, only for my father to demand 80% of my salary, and then threaten to sue me for abandonment if I refused. That was just the beginning of the war. I was on top of the world. After 5 grueling years I spent scraping by, living on nothing, paying off my late mother's crushing medical debts, I finally saw the light. A new job. A dream job. For $100,000 a year. I finally had a chance to breathe, to live. But that feeling? It lasted about 5 minutes. "Congratulations, son," my father said, not even letting me finish. "Now you can help your family as you should." And then it started. The demands. "We need 50% to maintain this house and for your sister," he blurted out, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, "and 30% for the mechanic shop." No excuses. My jaw dropped. This was almost my entire salary after taxes. I actually laughed. I thought it was a sick joke. "It wasn't. You lived here for free for 28 years, he sneered. "It's time to pay it back. We raised you, gave you a roof over your head, food. Now it's your turn to pay." My pregnant sister, sitting right there, just smiled, as if she'd already cashed the check. "I already quit my job," she said, without an ounce of shame. "I knew you would help us. My husband and I, we need a new car." Then my uncle, who was just there for this ambush, crossed his arms and dropped the bomb. "And if you don't accept," he added, his voice cold, "we'll sue you for family abandonment. We already have a lawyer." My blood ran cold. They were extorting me, my own family. "Family is sacred," my father replied, without blinking an eye. That night, as I frantically packed my things, I dug through old papers. 5 years. 5 years of electricity, water, food bills, all in my name. 5 years of my life, my sacrifice for Mom. I had been paying for everything while they lived like kings. That was the day they stopped being my family. And that was the day I stopped paying for my own kidnapping. I packed everything. I stopped paying their bills. The first few days? Pure, unadulterated freedom. For the first time in 5 years, my entire salary was mine. All mine. I bought decent food. Joined a gym. Even treated myself to dinner out without obsessively checking prices. Meanwhile, the messages started. A trickle at first, then a flood. "Why did the bills bounce?" from my sister. "Call me urgently," from my father. "You're an ungrateful brat," from my uncle. I ignored them. Until something arrived that I couldn't. A court summons. My father had actually done it. He sued me for filial abandonment, demanding a judge force me to pay them support. The sheer audacity. I was speechless. I needed a lawyer. Fast. I found one specializing in family law. He had that weary, "I've seen it all" look. I poured out my story, watching him take notes. "Do you have documentation proving you've already been supporting the family's expenses?" he asked. 5 years of paying for everything, I told him. "I need proof. And any financial documents related to your mother. If your father has hidden assets, we can countersue." That night, I went searching for my mother's papers. Dusty boxes. Medical receipts, hospital bills, insurance letters. As I sifted through them, my hand stopped. An old, handwritten letter. From my maternal grandmother. Asterisk, "My dearest daughter, with this trust fund, I want to secure your future and that of my grandson. May you never want for anything, asterisk, a trust fund?" What trust fund? My heart pounded. I called the law firm that handled my grandmother's will. The senior partner, now retired, answered from his home. "Of course I remember," he said. $250,000. A trust fund for medical expenses. Your father was the trustee. He confirmed it. It wasn't used for the treatment. My breath caught in my throat. "Where's that money?" The next words hit me like a physical blow. "Son, your father dissolved the trust 3 days after your mother's funeral. He said there was no longer a medical need." The phone slipped from my numb fingers. All this time. All that debt I'd paid religiously. The sacrifice. The sleepless nights spent figuring out how to stretch every dollar. It had all been a lie. My mother died, suffering, while my father had $250,000 tucked away. And then he made me pay his bills as if it were my obligation. I sent everything to my lawyer. 2 days later, he called me. For the first time in weeks, he sounded genuinely excited. "This isn't just filial abandonment," he said. "This is fraud. Embezzlement of trust funds. Your father is in serious trouble." Just as I was processing that bombshell, my sister escalated. She found out where I worked. And then she called Human Resources. Pretending to be a concerned former employee, she accused me of stealing intellectual property from the family business. Monday morning, my boss summoned me to his office. His face was grim. "We need to clear some things up," he said. "We received a very specific anonymous tip. Someone claims you designed several projects while working for an unregistered family company, and that you're now using those ideas here." My stomach plummeted. I knew exactly who had called. But how could I prove it? My sister was clever. She mentioned real projects from my personal portfolio, ones I developed in my free time, years ago. Does this family company exist? He asked. My father owns a business, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But I never worked there. I created those designs as an independent freelancer. I have all the contracts. The investigation lasted 2 tense, agonizing weeks. They had to review my entire work history, contact former clients, verify file creation dates. My sister had been smart. She'd found my old Behance and LinkedIn profiles where I'd uploaded those projects and presented them as proof of their work. Paranoia consumed me. What if they had retroactively registered a company? Forged documents? Every conversation with my boss felt loaded with suspicion. Then the call came that changed everything. The HR director summoned me again. This time, a slight smile played on his lips. We spoke with the person who made the complaint, he said. When we asked for specific proof of employment contracts, she hung up. She tried calling back with a different voice, pretending to be a witness, but it was from the same phone number. The relief hit me like a physical wave. Not only had I survived her sabotage, but my sister had been exposed as an amateur liar. Furthermore, my boss added, we verified all your projects. The copyrights have been in your name since before this supposed family company even existed. Case closed. He offered me a raise right there, noting my undeniable talent. The raise came at the perfect time. As my family crumbled, my career flourished. It was poetic justice, a cold, satisfying kind. But that call prompted me to dig deeper into my father. Public records, it turns out, are a gold mine when you know where to look. And what I found? It made my blood run cold. My father had mortgaged the family home, the house my mother had bought with her inheritance for $100,000, almost 15 months ago. An express loan, brutal interest rates. I understood everything immediately. His desperation for my money wasn't just greed. His business was failing. He needed my salary to save his own skin. That insane 80% demand? That was his emergency plan to avoid losing the house. But it was too late. He'd used the mortgage payments to patch holes in his failing business and was now in default. The house my mother had bought, where she'd spent her final years, was about to go to foreclosure auction. That night, sitting in my new apartment, a cold beer in hand, I had a realization that changed me forever. I wasn't going to lift a finger to save him. For the first time in my adult life, I held all the power. And this time, I was going to use it. My phone rang. It was my father. We need to talk, he pleaded, desperate. It's urgent. We have nothing to talk about, I said. The house. Your mother. What about the house? A long, agonizing silence. Then, in a broken voice, they're going to take it. I hung up. I turned off my phone. Let it all burn. Let him pay for what he did to my mother. Let him pay for every lie, every manipulation, every dollar he stole from me. Justice sometimes arrives on its own. Other times, you have to give it a little push. My lawyer wasted no time. The countersuit for fraud and embezzlement of the trust fund landed on my father like an anvil. We requested an immediate freeze of his assets. A restraining order. With the evidence we have, my lawyer told me, this isn't just a family dispute. It's a federal crime. 2 days later, confirmation. Restraining order approved. My father and sister could no longer legally contact me. The harassing calls, the desperate messages, all of it became additional evidence against them. But my family? They didn't give up. They went feral. The first sign came on a Monday morning. I went down to the parking garage for a crucial meeting with a multi-million-dollar client. And found my car vandalized. Ungrateful was spray-painted in red across the hood. Rot in hell on the side windows. The front right tire was cleanly slashed. No cameras in that section. No witnesses. But I knew exactly who had done it. I was 2 hours late for the most important meeting of the quarter. My client was not happy. We understand emergencies can happen, he said, his voice ice cold. But this makes us question your professionalism. I almost lost the contract because of that attack. I salvaged the situation by a thread. My boss, though annoyed, understood it was vandalism. But the message was clear. My family had declared all-out war. Their situation accelerated its deterioration. First, they lost their biggest client, a construction company they'd worked with for 15 years. A project my father tried to manage alone resulted in a failed delivery. $30,000 in penalties. Then came the public humiliation. They created a pathetic GoFundMe. Help with urgent family medical expenses, it read, with a tear-jerking story about an ungrateful son who had abandoned his sick family. The description was pure fiction. They invented a non-existent medical emergency and painted me as a heartless monster. The campaign raised $17 in 2 weeks. The few comments were devastating. Why isn't the son helping? Something doesn't add up here. The humiliation followed them to the supermarket, where acquaintances would awkwardly ask about the family emergency. My sister violated the restraining order. She showed up in my office parking lot, causing a scene that could be heard from the 5th floor. You're a monster. Dad is sick. Mom's house is going to be lost because of you. I didn't say a word. I pulled out my phone, recorded everything, and called the police. When they arrived, she was still screaming. The officer who cautioned her told me, if she comes near you again, it will be an automatic arrest. Meanwhile, I continued to monitor their financial movements through public records. The workshop machinery began to disappear. First, the $8,000 laser cutter. Then the industrial welder. All sold at desperate liquidation prices. It was a quiet Wednesday night when my phone exploded. It was Anna, my girlfriend of 6 months, screaming hysterically. Who the hell is that the asterisk 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 asterisk? What are you talking about? My blood ran cold. The photos. Someone sent me photos of you kissing another woman in your apartment. Anna, calm down. What photos? You look very happy hugging that blonde, wearing the same shirt you wore last week. Anna sent me the images. They were convincing. My face. My apartment. My clothes. But I was hugging a woman I had never seen in my life. The work was professional, almost perfect. If I didn't know it was impossible, I would have believed the lie myself. Anna, those photos are edited. Someone is trying to sabotage our relationship. Yeah, right? The classic cheater's excuse. She hung up. When I tried to call her back, she had blocked me. The message accompanying the photos was anonymous, but the style was unmistakable. Asterisk thought you should know what kind of man your boyfriend is. A concerned friend, asterisk my sister. It had to be her. Anna broke up with me via text that same night. 6 months of a relationship destroyed by artificial intelligence and family desperation. The contrast was brutal. While I calmly watched their financial ruin, they attacked me where it hurt most. My personal life. My happiness. My father tried one last move. He called me from a neighbor's phone, his voice oscillating between pleading and rage. This is all your fault. Your mother would be ashamed of what you've become. The silence that followed was more eloquent than any response. I hung up without a word. An uncle who had always been neutral tried to mediate. He called me with his typical conciliatory tone. I understand both of you, but family is the most important thing. Did he tell you he demanded 80% of my salary? I asked, my voice calm, almost chilling. Or that he stole the trust fund money my grandmother left for my mother's treatment? Absolute silence on the other end. Did he tell you that my mother died believing there was no money for better medical care, while he had $250,000 tucked away? I didn't know those details. Now you do. He never called again. The first foreclosure notice arrived on a gray Tuesday in November. My lawyer forwarded the notification with a simple note. It's official. The auction is scheduled for January 15th. That same day, I founded Legacy Restored LLC. The name was no coincidence. It was time to restore my mother's true legacy, not the one my father had corrupted with his greed. 5 years of living on the bare minimum, plus my recent raise, and a business loan backed by my new salary, allowed me to transfer $200,000 into the LLC's account. The irony was perfect. The money they had prevented me from saving for years was now coming back to claim what should have always been mine. It was more than enough for the auction. The outstanding mortgage was only $180,000, and the real estate market was down. The following weeks were a festival of desperation. My father's and sister's cars disappeared one morning, repossessed for accumulated debts. A nosy neighbor posted photos in the neighborhood Facebook group. Does anyone know why the Martinez family's cars were towed? They looked very stressed. The comments were brutal. The entire neighborhood found out they were bankrupt. My sister made one last desperate attempt. She showed up at my building at 11 p.m. Pregnant. Crying. The doorman called me. There's a lady here who says she's your sister. She's very upset. I don't have a sister, I replied, my voice steady. Please escort that person off the property. From my window, I watched her walk away in the rain. For a second, I felt something akin to pity. Then I remembered the fake photos that destroyed my relationship with Anna. The pity evaporated. Her last act of spite was pathetic. She posted old photos of me with my mother on Instagram and Facebook, with victim-blaming captions about how grief changes people and money breaks families. The reactions were minimal. 3 likes. 0 comments. Even her own friends had abandoned her. My lawyer officially registered Legacy Restored LLC as a bidder for the auction. Everything was in place. The night before the auction, I didn't review finances or strategies. I sat on my couch with a photo of my mother I had rescued from the family home years ago. It was from one of her last good days, when she was still smiling despite the pain. We're getting your house back tomorrow, Mom, I whispered to the photo. And this time, it will be for a family that deserves it. The phone rang. My father, calling from an unknown number. His last call. Please, he sobbed. It's all we have left. It's the house where your mother was happy. My mother was happy there, I replied, with a calm that surprised even me, until you turned it into a financial tomb. What do you want? Money? An apology? What do I have to do? Nothing, I said before hanging up. You no longer have anything I want. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Tomorrow, justice would have my face and my checkbook. The day of the auction arrived with rain. I got there early, parked a block away, and watched. My father and sister stood outside the courthouse, getting soaked, their faces like they were at a funeral. The auction lasted exactly 12 minutes. There were other bidders, but when Legacy Restored LLC made its final offer of $215,000, everyone else withdrew. I watched my father's face crumble as the gavel fell. The winner was announced. My lawyer called me as my father and sister walked, utterly defeated, toward their battered car. The house is yours. Proceed. One word. 5 years of medical debts I should never have paid. 5 years of sacrifice for a lie. One single word was all the moment deserved. The 30-day eviction notice reached their hands 3 days later. My phone immediately exploded. Call after call after call. I let it ring. Until I finally answered one. How could you? It was my hysterical sister. It's Mom's house. You sued me, harassed me, and even made me lose my girlfriend, I replied, my voice calm, flat. I have nothing to do with your problems. Figure it out yourself. I hung up. The following weeks were a festival of pleas that I systematically ignored. Desperate voicemails, pathetic text messages, attempts to contact me through acquaintances. Nothing. I watched as the deadline approached day by day. Eviction day was brutal. Constant rain, a biting wind, a gray sky. Perfect. I arrived just as the cheap moving truck was parking. It was a decrepit, dented vehicle, exactly what you'd expect from someone completely bankrupt. 2 sheriff's deputies supervised the process, ensuring my ex-family removed their belongings in the pouring rain. News of the eviction had spread like wildfire. The entire neighborhood had gathered with umbrellas and coffee mugs, as if it were a spectacle. I saw Mrs. Lopez from number 42, the twins from the corner, even old Mr. Martinez, who had known my mother for 30 years. My sister, in her desperation, had called everyone. Her in-laws were there, faces etched with second-hand embarrassment. Her husband hid behind them, clearly regretting marrying into this family. 2 distant uncles watched from their cars, not daring to get closer. I parked directly in front of the house in my black sedan. Not ostentatious. Not modest. Elegant. Powerful. Like the justice I was about to serve. When I stepped out of the car, in my tailored suit, impeccable under the rain, a murmur rippled through the crowd. I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my mind. But nothing prepared me for the real feeling. Absolute calm. Total power. My father saw me first. His eyes widened like saucers. You, he screamed, his voice breaking with a mix of disbelief and fury. You came to gloat. To enjoy this. My sister ran toward me, soaked and frantic, her pregnant belly prominent under the rain. Look what you've done to us. We've lost everything because of you. I'm going to have a baby. The murmurs from the neighborhood intensified. Some looked at me with disapproval, not knowing the full story. I said nothing. Simply raised a hand to stop her without touching her. My silence was more intimidating than any shout. The sheriff's deputies turned, watching on alert. Please, my father sobbed, falling to his knees in the mud, clutching at my pant leg. We're family. Your mother wouldn't have wanted this. The neighborhood watched in absolute silence. This was the moment. The perfect audience for the truth. You lost everything the day you decided I was a bank account, I said, my voice clear enough for everyone to hear. I walked toward the front door, ignoring their pleas. My father ran behind me, desperate. Where are you going? That's my house. I pulled out the new shiny key, inserted it into the lock. The click was audible to the entire crowd. I turned and faced not just my family, but the entire audience. I didn't say, it's my house now. The silence was deafening. Even the rain seemed to have paused. My sisters in-laws exchanged shocked glances. I am Legacy Restored LLC, I announced. When you demanded 80% of my future, I decided to reclaim the past instead. My sister stammered something about injustice. I cut her off like a laser, raising my voice for all to hear. You talk about injustice? Let's talk about the $250,000 trust fund your father stole from his dying wife. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Old Mr. Martinez moved closer, incredulous. The money that would have paid for better medical care for my mother, I continued, the debt they forced me to pay for 5 years, never existed. My sister completely collapsed. Her in-laws stared at her with horror and disgust. Her husband physically recoiled, putting his hands on his head. Mom died poor, I continued, my voice breaking slightly, believing there was no money for better treatment. Meanwhile, this man, I pointed directly at my father, had $250,000 of her inheritance saved for his businesses. The uncles watching from afar started their cars and drove away. My sister's in-laws turned and walked toward their vehicle without a word. The entire neighborhood was murmuring, scandalized. Old Mr. Martinez approached me, tears in his eyes. Is that true, son? Every word. He turned to my father with pure contempt. Carmen was like a sister to me. How could you? I took an envelope from my jacket and threw it at my father's feet. It was immediately soaked by the rain. I paid off the rest of my mother's medical debts, I said. With what was left after legal fees and renovations, I created the Carmen Hernandez Oncology Scholarship with a $50,000 donation to the local hospital. I didn't even get back half of what he stole, but it was never about the money. My father and sister became paupers. Their mechanic shop closed for good. No home, no money, no family to support them after learning the truth about the trust fund. My uncle, who had threatened me, never spoke to me again after reading the confession. The house, now a blank canvas, was completely remodeled. Not as a home for me, but as the perfect space for a real family. I rented it out at a fair price and chose a young couple with a baby. I gave them the stable home I never had. Months later, I drove down the street. I saw the new family planting flowers in the garden. The site of my torment had become a place of creation. I received a postcard from the tenants, a photo of the baby taking its first steps in the living room. Thank you for building our home. The last time I saw my father and sister was in a cheap supermarket. They looked older, gray, defeated. They switched aisles to avoid me. I felt no hatred, only indifference. Now I sit in my apartment, looking out at the city skyline. Vengeance didn't bring me explosive joy, no triumphant shout. It brought a deep, quiet peace. I closed the book, punished the wicked, honored my mother, and built something good from the ruins of the past. I didn't get my family back. I built something better. A life where no one can ever extort me again. Was it worth it? Every damn penny.